Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to episode 307 of the podcast. Unless you're joining live on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, if you want to catch a show live, subscribe on one or all of those channels, platforms, whatever they are. Turn on your notifications so you know when the show's going live, like right now. Today is Tuesday, March 21st. A few days late, but at least I'm getting an episode in this week, somewhat timely manner. I'm sure everybody has already had their fill of UFC 286 talk, but whatever, we'll do it. Wasn't able to get to an episode on Sunday. I was traveling. My daughter had spring break from school, so her and I took a trip up to New York to visit her new cousin and my baby niece, Julia, who just turned 4 months old today. She's adorable. We had a great time, spending some downtime with family. The wife stayed behind to to manage things here, run the business. And first time traveling solo with my daughter. There was one time I flew with her by myself, but just one way. My wife was with us, but she had flown back to Florida like a day earlier. So I flew with her. It could be a little challenging, flying with a young kid when you're solo. It's a lot easier, obviously, when the other parent is with you because there's two people to keep track of all the stuff, like the coloring books and the iPads and all that nonsense. And then one person can watch a kid, the other can run to the restroom. Logistically, it just gets a little it can be a little overwhelming traveling by yourself, but she was good. She's 5 now, so she's at the point where she's like pretty independent. She listens to me and she stays close by, so I didn't have any issues. The traveling all went smooth. We had a great time up in New York. Enjoyed a little pizza, a little bagels. Just some of the luxuries that we don't have available to us here in Florida. The people who are from here or who live here that are from places other than New York, they just don't get it. And I don't know that they ever will. There's just something about it, man. Some people say it's the water. Some people say it's the climate that affects the way the yeast makes the dough rise. But whatever it is, man, the pizza and the bagels in New York are just better than anywhere else in my experience. And it could just be a nostalgia thing. It could just be my taste buds thing, but that's just the way it is. And, I'll feel that way for the rest of my life. But yeah, it wound up being perfect because it had snowed like a few days before we got up there. So there was enough snow on the ground that my daughter could go sleigh riding in my sister's backyard. She has like kind of a steep hill that goes towards the woods in her backyard. It's just really perfect for sleigh riding. So we did like a few hours of that the first day. And then the next day we were there, it warmed up to like 50 degrees and all the snow melted. So it was awesome. Kind of stayed like that the whole time. And then the last day of our trip, it dropped down to like the low 30s out of nowhere. It was kind of eerie because the night before, my brother-in-law and I were sitting outside. We just finished watching UFC 286. We were sitting outside having a little scotch and a cigar, and we were just talking, shooting the shit, catching up. And there were all these frogs in the woods making noise. and the temperature was like dropping drastically. And all of a sudden, at the same time, all of the frogs just stopped. And it was kind of creepy because it just suddenly got really quiet and it suddenly got really cold. Um, it was a pretty cool experience, though. It was like one of the frogs was like, "Hey, everybody, quiet down," and then they just all shut up at once. Yeah, so it was awesome. We got to spend time with my parents, my sister, my brother-in-law, my brother, and my two nieces. And this was the first time that my daughter was able to interact with my sister's firstborn, who is a little over a year and a half now. So they were actually able to play together, and she can walk now and kind of communicate a little bit. So um, my daughter had a good time being the big cousin. So looking forward to many more trips like that. Mark says it sounds like the frogs froze their nuts off. It's exactly like that. It's almost like when you get hit in the nuts and you just freeze, much like Kamaru Usman did when he got hit by Leon Edwards on Saturday night. So let's get right into it. Planning to have a pretty quick episode tonight, but who knows? You guys know I can go on some rants sometimes, but I don't have a whole lot to say on this card. It was pretty straightforward. I wasn't crazy about the way the main event turned out. I'm a fan of Kamaru Usman. You guys know I don't typically root one way or the other. But there is something about Leon Edwards that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I don't know if it's just like he doesn't present himself well, or he just like comes off as not a good person. I can't exactly put my finger on it. And of course, we have a wrestler versus a striker here. So you guys know typically in that situation, I'm going to be rooting for the wrestler in Kamaru Usman, who I still believe is in the conversation for the best welterweight of all time, but it's got to still be George St. Pierre. I mean, the dude had such a dominant run. I think a lot of people were almost relieved that he lost this rematch just so we could have a little parity in this welterweight division, mix it up a little bit, because, Usman had pretty much cleaned it out. So here we are with this. Yeah, it was a good performance by Leon Edwards. He didn't waste any energy, that's for sure. And I think that's what kind of made it a little lackluster for me. He was just kind of backing up the whole time. He was working the leg kicks, and he had a crazy stat with his strike accuracy. He's like 70% accurate with his strikes, something like that. The body kicks were super effective, but it's not the way you really want to see like a champion defend a title. Like when Usman was the champion, he won it by dominating Tyron Woodley, and then his defenses, he was just crushing dudes, whereas Leon Edwards was like, no, don't take me down, please. I'll grab your gloves and I'll grab the cage and I'll kick you in the nuts. I'll do anything. Just please don't take me down. That was like the vibe I got from him, which is not the vibe you want to see from like a champion. But, I'll admit my bias here. Like I said, there's something about the guy, and I don't know him personally. Maybe he's a great guy, but the dirty stuff in the fight. And this is something that Leon Edwards is kind of known for. You know, he was fouling a lot in the last fight. And if you remember in the Nate Diaz fight, right before Nate almost knocked him out, Nate was on his back and Leon like used his foot to move Nate's cup over to like step on Nate's nuts without the cup. It's a weird thing. If you can see a clip of it, if I had it handy, I would pull it up for you. This is why I need like a producer who could like, hey, pull up that clip of Leon Edwards like playing footsie with Nate Diaz's dick. But there was that. Leon Edwards' first loss was a disqualification for throwing an illegal knee. So yeah, there's some dirty stuff, but you know, credit to him. He did what he had to do to win, and now he's put this trilogy behind him. Like, it doesn't really matter how it got done. It got done, and he's the champ going forward, and we're going to see what's next for him. It'll be interesting to see what's next for Kamaru Usman as well. You know, what's he going to do? They're not going to put him in there for a fourth time with Leon Edwards, at least not anytime soon. I think Usman's got to kind of wait for Leon to lose the belt and preferably lose it to someone that Usman hasn't already fought twice. So that rules out, you know, Colby Covington, that rules out Jorge Masvidal, rules out quite a few people. But we could have some freshness in the division with Leon as the champion. He's got some heat with some people. You know, Bilal Muhammad makes a decent case for a fight, but I don't think that'll be next. I mean, he's got an 8-fight win streak, whatever it is, but you got to remember that was interrupted by his fight with Leon Edwards, which was definitely not going his way. And then he got poked in the eye by Leon. Surprisingly, a dirty move by Leon Edwards. If I haven't given enough evidence that the guy fights dirty. So then I think because of that, there's just not an appetite for it. You know, resume wise and accomplishment wise, Bilal Muhammad is definitely deserving, but it's just not going to happen. Dana White said it's going to be Colby Covington. Apparently, Colby was the backup fighter for this main event, and nobody knew until they saw him step on the scale, which is weird because it's hard to keep secrets in this business. So Colby quietly, you know, training, going through camp, and making weight, which Colby hasn't done in a long, long time. Colby's very rarely quiet. In fact, he was making a lot of noise on the internet today. I'm sure most of you saw. I forget who it was he did the interview with, but clips of that going around. But Dana said Colby's going to be next, even though, you know, he hasn't fought in like a year. The win over Masvidal. Other guys like Bilal Muhammad have been a lot more active and would be a lot more deserving, but it's not always about deserving. And what I find funny is that a lot of the people who are complaining about Colby getting the shot and saying he doesn't deserve it are the same people who are sharing clips of Colby Covington's interview and talking about how they can't stand the guy. You know, I used to talk about this all the time with Conor McGregor. Like, if you don't like the guy, you got to keep his name off your social media platforms, because every time you type his name in there, you're giving more hits, you're giving more attention, you're making him trend on Twitter, you're making him show up on people's Instagram feeds, et cetera, people, and then the journalists are going to continue to make more shitty content about them. It's really like, it's like a never-ending black hole. You know, you have these polarizing figures that, you know, maybe they're not the best fighters out there. Maybe they're not the most active fighters out there, but they get the most attention. They know how to do it. So if you didn't see the thing with Colby Covington today, he threatened John Anik and said, like, hey, we live near each other. and I'm paraphrasing, if I get my hands on you, then your kids aren't going to have a dad anymore, or something like that. Or I'd hate to see your kids grow up without a dad. Something like really low and disgusting to say. But it worked. You know, Colby got the whole internet mad at him. He says that, and then he turns off all his internet. I imagine he's not looking at anything for the next few days or the next few weeks. He knows the UFC is looking at metrics and seeing who is getting talked about the most. You know, they're analyzing all that stuff. And, you know, he's getting the hits, he's getting the clicks. People are so angry at the guy. And yeah, it's fucked up what he said. I mean, he's threatening a guy who's not even a fighter, you know, not even close. You know, the guy's he's just a commentator, a damn good commentator. But, you know, talking about fighting doesn't mean you can fight or defend yourself. So yeah, it was pretty low that he went after him, but this is nothing new for Colby Covington. I think he said at one point he was going to slap Joe Rogan, and it's all shtick. Like, he's not going to lay a hand on John Anik or anybody else outside of competition. You've seen, you know, he called the cops on Fabricio Verdum. He has the lawsuit with Jorge Masvidal for their little dust up in the street or whatever it was in Miami. So it's all playing a character, and a lot of people buy into it. I think a lot of people enjoy buying into it. I think people really like having somebody to hate. They really like having that bad guy, and they almost want to believe it's real, but everybody knows it's not. You know, everybody knows he's just trying to push everyone's buttons, and everyone is allowing their buttons to be pushed. Mark says, the worst thing Colby ever said was the Star Wars spoiler, Luke dies. I don't remember that one, but that's funny. That is humorous. Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with Colby Covington's tactics. I'm not defending him here. I'm not saying what he said about John Anik is right. It's absolutely not. You should never come after anybody that you're not willing to get in the cage with. You know, it's different if you're going to talk about a guy that you could potentially fight, but when you start getting into people who aren't even fighters, then, you know, that's crossing the line. But again, I don't think he means anything by it. There's zero chance he's going to act on those words. You know, all it is crying for attention, and people give it to him. You know, it's like the same thing with this, what's it called? The slap fighting stuff. All these MMA journalists talk about how they're morally against it, and then they'll do 20-minute segments about why they don't like it and just give it, you know, media coverage. They'll dedicate portions of their show to talking about it. Like, if you really feel that way, like you really don't like something, the best thing to do is not talk about it. And this goes back to the school days when you're getting like verbally bullied by someone. They're trying to get a reaction out of you, and if you don't give it to them, they'll just kind of stop. I don't know if anybody remembers getting that advice back in elementary school and middle school, and you know, I did. And the other way to silence the bullies is to fight back, and that's up to the people who get into the cage with Colby Covington, which it looks like it's going to be Leon Edwards. That's an interesting matchup, and I think if you're Dana White, you have to, like, Leon Edwards is a quiet guy. He doesn't talk a lot because it's difficult for him. So if you're going to put somebody across from him, it has to be somebody who can build a fight. We know Colby can do that. His pay-per-view buys aren't great, but at least it's going to be good content leading up to the fight. There'll be banter and stuff like that because there was nothing leading up to this main event. Like nobody even knew this was happening really, except for like people in London who I'm sure were, ecstatic to have this fight. But, supposedly the UFC was contacting Kamaru Usman like 3 weeks before the fight. Like, dude, are you still fighting? Because like we haven't heard anything from you. There was just no buildup. And, you got two competitors who don't really like to trash talk. They just like to put their nose to the grindstone and talk with their fighting, but that's not really great for business. So if you bring in like a Bilal Muhammad, one, you already had a fight between those two that was going, very one-sided in favor of Leon Edwards, and it ended in a foul and ruined, a lot of people's night. So, and then you're not going to have good buildup because Bilal's not a trash talker. He's going to be respectful. Leon's not going to say anything. So then you have another welterweight championship fight that, nobody outside of hardcore fans is going to be interested in. It's just not like it's very black and white bad business is all it is. So unfortunately, if you're running $1 billion company, you kind of have to rely on an asshole like Colby Covington to get people interested in this division now. That's just the situation we're in. And it's nobody's fault. It's like, this is the guy who's the champion now. He earned it. He might have cheated along the way, but he's got it. And now we got to try and figure out a way to make it marketable. So there you have it. Let's take a look here. I'll pull this up so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Co-main event. Awesome. Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev. This fight, it went pretty much how I thought it would. Somebody had asked me, I think the day before or the day of, to make a prediction, and I immediately said Gaethje, and the reason is, we've only seen two ways to beat Justin Gaethje. That's to out-grapple him, which was not going to happen from Fiziev, and to shut his lights off. And if you look at Fiziev's record, he's got knockouts, but they're typically, I'll pull this up real quick. I don't want to make you guys think I know all this stuff off the top of my head. When he knocks guys out, they're typically on the smaller side. Brad Riddell, Renato Moicano, who's really a featherweight. Who else? RDA, who's a bigger guy, but that was an RDA who's like well past his prime, and it was like in the 5th round when he knocked him out. So, point being, Fiziev's a great striker. There's no doubt about it. But as far as having the firepower and the volume to put someone's lights out, like Justin Gaethje, I just felt like he didn't have the size to do it. He was doing a great job, getting in and out of the pocket, and working the body of Gaethje, maybe a little bit too much. We've never seen that in the blueprint to beat Justin Gaethje, to work his body. The guy's a freaking tank. We've seen him. I think it was the Eddie Alvarez fight. He was unconscious and still throwing punches. So you're just not going to shut him down that way. And, I think a lot of people like to label Gaethje as a brawler, but Justin Gaethje has some very technical boxing. Once he found his range in that 3rd round and he was sticking that jab in Fiziev's face and he was finding that uppercut, over and over again, that dismantled Fiziev's face. And that brings me to the decision. So it was a majority decision, which means one judge, I guess, gave the first 2 rounds to Fiziev and then gave the 3rd round 10-8 to Gaethje. Here's the problem with the scoring. Justin Gaethje was the very clear winner of that fight. You know, if you're looking at damage, which is the number one criteria, Fiziev may never look the same after this fight. Whereas Gaethje looks like he just did like some rigorous cardio. Like he went for like a really long jog and maybe did some hill sprints. You know, he did not look like he was in a 15-minute cage fight when this was over. Fiziev had his face rearranged. However, in the same breath, I can tell you I could understand if you scored rounds 1 and 2 for Fiziev. He was the quicker fighter. He was landing more. I didn't. I gave 2 and 3 to Gaethje. I thought, you know, around midway through the second round, Gaethje started to find his range and, you know, made adjustments. He even hit that takedown. He had some level changes in this fight, so he's finally bringing in that Division I wrestling that people have been begging him to incorporate for the longest time. He's probably, you know, he's in the training room with Kamaru Usman, so he's got to be drilling the wrestling. And he was a Division I All-American at Colorado, so we know he can wrestle. We're finally starting to see it. You know, even if it was just to seal the round. But yeah, it's super impressive performance by Gaethje, who you know is no doubt one of the most exciting fighters in the division or ever, really. I mean, if you look at his highlight reel, they call him the highlight for a reason. He's got some spectacular knockouts and then just some knockdown, drag out wars. I mean, his fight with Michael Chandler was a classic. Just some awesome fights on his resume, even before being in the UFC. And when he was champion of World Series of Fighting, he had some awesome fights there. He put on some size. He said this was the first time he actually had to cut weight, which is surprising to me. He never seemed like a small lightweight to me, but I guess he put on some more muscle. He actually had to do a weight cut for this fight, but didn't seem to affect him. He was coming on just as strong in the third round as he was in the first. Fought a smart fight. Did an awesome job. Gunnar Nelson, brilliant armbar over Brian Barberina. Just textbook. Slid up into S mount and just snatched that arm with 9 seconds to go. Locked it up super tight. There was nothing Barberina could have done. He was going to get his arm broken. He knew it. Just super slick by Gunnar Nelson. I mean, he just snaked right through the guard, and just slid right into that armbar. It was perfect. It was a textbook armbar. That's the armbar that like most people learn in their first year of jiu-jitsu. You know, you get the mount, you slide one knee up to the head, you know, you turn the other leg over, you lean towards the stomach, don't fall straight back. I mean, he did everything perfectly. It was just a picture perfect armbar. What else can you say about it? Jennifer Maia ending the undefeated streak of Casey O'Neill. You know, she was just a step ahead of her in this fight. It was interesting too because apparently Jennifer Maia said even though she won the fight, she was saying Casey O'Neill was greased up. I don't know if it's true or not. She said she was real slippery and it felt like more than sweat. I don't know why she was throwing those accusations out there when she won the fight, but you know, I guess somebody asked about it. So there you go. One of the best fights of the night, which I think I told you guys I thought it would be one of the better fights. Marvin Vettori and Roman Dolidze. You know, these are just two big brutes. I'm surprised we didn't see Vettori go to the grappling that much. He was taking a lot of shots in the first round, but he was able to make the adjustments and he didn't react at all when Dolidze was getting frustrated with him because Vettori was being like pretty evasive. He's working the kicks pretty well. My only critique there would be that he seems to like lean back a lot when he's throwing his kicks. I know he went and did some training in Thailand and stuff, so he wants to have a more kick-heavy attack. He said that was a lesson that he learned in the Whitaker fight. But leaning back on those kicks, once you get in there with a wrestler, if you start putting yourself off balance, they snatch one of those legs, you're going to be leaning all the way back. Not too much to worry about there in the middleweight division. Not a really grappling heavy division there, but just something to consider. And I'm sure his coaches are going to see that and they'll go back and work on it. Great fight though. Great performance by Vettori. It was a close fight. I thought Dolidze looked good as well. These are two guys who are used to getting in there and being bullies, and they both ran into somebody else cut from the same cloth. So it made for a good fight, I thought. I don't know. Did you guys enjoy that one? Let's see. Jack Shore submits Makwan Amirkhani, but the story of this fight, I would say, is Jack Shore's boxing. Very interesting. I thought he was super sharp, landing clean shots on Amirkhani. He would throw the jab out there, and Amirkhani would kind of shell up, and Shore would have the right hand loaded. And you could tell he was targeting where he was going to throw it because Amirkhani was shelling up with both hands and ducking down. And Jack Shore would look for the opening before he would throw that right hand. Very technical, very, sophisticated boxing. A lot of people learn how to throw punches and just kind of wing them. But he was actually setting his shots up. He was reading the reactions of Amirkhani, was able to put him down and then submit him late in the second round. So awesome performance by Jack Shore. Let me see. Let me jump around a little bit here. Yanal Ashmaz just obliterated Sam Patterson. This was a scary knockout. Patterson was like out of it for a while, and then his coaches had to prop him up in a corner and explain to him what happened. That was kind of tough to watch, but I think it's Ashmos. This dude is a friggin' killer. So let me pull him up real quick. Let's take a look with me. So he's only 7-0. So to go in to this fight, all right. So he came from the PFL. This is his UFC debut. To go in there with 6 fights, it looks like he doesn't even have an amateur record, and to do that to another UFC fighter, in their home country, that was damn impressive. So he's definitely going to be somebody to keep an eye on. Looks like he's got knockout power. His first 2 wins were submissions, though. All right. Seems like he's one of these dudes that had no choice but to bring him into the UFC because probably nobody wants to fight him on the local circuits. That would be my guess. Muhammad Makayev against Rafael Filho ended in a submission for Makayev, and he was completely dominating this fight. Filho was just outclassed everywhere. On the feed, he kept getting taken down. Then in the third round, he ends up grabbing a knee bar and just cranked that thing all the way. Makayev said he heard it pop a couple of times, which is just gruesome. And not only was he so hardcore to not tap, but he stood up on that busted up leg and and finished the fight, which he didn't even have to. Like, he would have won a decision, but he was like, no, I'm putting this guy away now. Did it with less than 30 seconds to go in the fight. And then still pulled himself up on top of the cage with one leg. So that's a next level toughness with that dude, Makayev. And he said after the fact he wasn't going to tap. He was just going to let the guy break his leg. And man, that's harsh. That's super harsh. Mark says Makayev is a beast. Give him a title shot in 5 years when he can walk again. That's funny. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to jump around a little bit here. Jake Hadley. Pretty quick knockout over Malcolm Gordon. That was an interesting one. 130-pound catch weight though, so I'm wondering why that was. I'm wondering who missed weight. If anybody knows, let me know. And I'm not gonna go into detail about anything else because I watched the prelims, but like I said, I was visiting family and there was newborns and toddlers running around everywhere, so I wasn't focused enough to give you guys like any real analysis. Not like I give you real analysis anyway. This is all just for fun, right? So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do next. The other thing I was thinking is that, you know, the reason Usman never moved up to 185 pounds is because he's buddies with Adesanya, who was champion at the same time. But, you know, Usman is a big 70-pounder. I mean, he talked about going up to 205 and he even did that little face-off with Jan Blachowicz and looked pretty comparable in size. So part of me wonders if Usman is going to move up because there's not really any other fights for him. I mean, I guess he's never fought Wonder Boy. That's an interesting fight. I don't think I'd want to see that one for 3 rounds, though. So that would have to headline a fight night or something. But it would be kind of interesting to see Usman move up. Let's see. Let me pull up the rankings real quick. If I don't know, if he moved up, who would you want to see him fight? Because we got Pereira the champ. Obviously, he's not going to move up right into a title shot because, you know, he's lost 2 in a row. But what could you do? Usman versus Sean Strickland? That could be an interesting fight. Usman versus Duplessis? I'd like to see that one. Let's see how that goes. Delidze, give him a striker. It'd have to be somebody in the top 10, I would think, if he's going to move up. Usman and Jared Cannonier. How would Usman look at 185? Maybe move around a little better on those knees. I don't know. Because then what do you do with him? What do you do with him if he stays at 170? All right. Obviously, Covington's going to get the next shot. You're not going to do Chimaev and Usman. I don't think Chimaev is even going to be in the division. Bilal Muhammad's not going to fight him because he's waiting for a title shot. You're not going to do Gilbert Burns again. I wouldn't do Rakhmonov and Usman either. That's not really a fun fight. So now you're looking at Wonder Boy. Unless you go down, you know what would be a great fight is Sean Brady if he stayed at welterweight. All right. Mark wants to see Dricus du Plessis. Yeah, I'm for it. I think there's actually better matchups for him. I don't know about better stylistic matchups, but I mean just more interesting matchups at 185 because if if you stay at 170, you're already out of the top 5. Everybody's out if you look at this. Chimaev, I don't think should even be ranked as a welterweight anymore. It's not going to be Bilal Muhammad. They're not going to do the rematch with Gilbert Burns. And Gilbert Burns is already fighting Masvidal. So then you're looking at Stephen Thompson. Sean Brady would be good. He's not going to fight Vicente Luque. They're buddies. Even though they were going to fight when Usman had the title, but that's only because he had the title. But if you look at middleweight, man, you could do Marvin Vettori and Usman, Jared Cannonier, Paulo Costa. I'm feeling like Dricus du Plessis would be the way to go. But I don't know. I don't know what he's gonna do. So I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I feel like he's just gonna take some time off. Like let those knees heal. Whatever's going on with the hand surgery, just let all that stuff heal up. He doesn't have to rush back in there because he's not going to see the title at 170 again until somebody other than Leon Edwards is holding it. So, yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. What's next for Kamaru Usman? All right, let's look ahead to next week. I'm just looking at this for the first time, really. Okay, this is a fun card. Very fun card here. All right, cool. So we got Marlon Vera and Cory Sandhagen in the main event. This is in San Antonio, Texas, UFC on ESPN 43. Man, this is an interesting one. Because Cory Sandhagen, when he's on, he's on. He's like one of the most dangerous guys in the division. I mean, his knockout of Frankie Edgar, of Marlon Moraes, his knockout of Song Yadong. But then you look at his performances against like Aljamain Sterling, TJ Dillashaw. Peter Yan was a good fight. So like it's like he's either gonna finish you or lose. It has basically been his pattern since 2019. I think he's an exciting fighter, whereas Marlon Vera is just on a hell of a streak. He had the loss to Aldo, which he didn't really lose that fight, did he? I think most people thought Cheeto won that one. Then he goes on a tear. Davey Grant, Frankie Edgar, Rob Font, Dominic Cruz. Okay, so now he's in the main event. I'm thinking he's going to be looking for a title fight after this. But what's going to happen with the title is the question. Aljamain Sterling is fighting Henry Cejudo. I think if Cejudo wins, he's going to call his shot for who he wants to fight. And I don't think it's going to be a top contender. I think he's going to look for like more of a marquee money fight. I don't think he's going to take the tough fights. I don't think he's going to take a Sandhagen or a Cheeto Vera. If Aljamain Sterling wins, I see him moving up to 145 pounds. Then what do we do? The winner of this against Merab for the undisputed title? Why not, right? mean, Merab is the next in line, I would think. Well, again, luckily I pulled up these rankings since I'm my own producer here. Let's see. Yeah, Merab's number 1. They got Sean O'Malley's at number 2. All right. I guess. Sure. Then you got Cheeto Vera. Then you got Peter Yan. Then you got Sandhagen. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. You know, the next few months, there's going to be a big shakeup. So, like, the winner of this fight can't really even make an effective call out. Because I don't feel like the winner of this is going to fight the winner of Aljamain Sterling, Henry Cejudo, no matter who wins that one. Interesting. So what are they fighting for here? You know, it's number 3 against number 5. Are they fighting to stay, you know, Sandhagen fighting to become number 3 and be behind Sean O'Malley? I don't know why Sean O'Malley's number 2. It doesn't make sense that he would be ahead of a guy who beat him in Marlon Vera, but I don't know. Doesn't make dollars, doesn't make sense. Then we got Holly Holm versus Yana Santos. This is back to bantamweight for Holly Holm. Win or lose, she'll probably get a title shot after this one. Especially if she loses. Put her right in for the title after that. Oh yeah, good point. Cejudo's gonna call out Volkanovski if he wins. That's what I was trying to piece together in my tiny little reptile brain. Thanks for helping me out there, Mark. Yeah, that makes total sense that Cejudo would call out Volkanovski. And I think Aljamain would do the same thing if he wins, because he's inevitably going to move up to 145 pounds. I think win or lose, this may be his last fight at bantamweight. And that's been the plan the whole time, in my estimation. I don't know for sure. I do know some people within that Sarah gym, but I have no inside information. Nate Landwehr against Austin Lingo. That'll be a fun fight. Landwehr is just, he just fights like a train wreck. He's always entertaining. Andrea Lee and Maycee Barber. That's a good fight. Let's see. Maycee Barber had a little rough patch there. After she ran into Roxanne Modafferi and had her like ACL torn or whatever it was, that set her back. But, luckily she's young. She's able to recover from that pretty quickly for what it was. Then dropped to Alexa Grasso. No shame there. But then she went on a little tear, 3 straight wins in a row. Miranda Maverick, Montana De La Rosa, and Jessica I. That's an impressive little streak. And Andrea Lee coming off a loss to Viviana Rojo. Yeah, she also had a little losing streak that involved Roxanne Modafferi as well. All right. That's a fun fight. I like that one. Alex Perez and Manel Kape. All right. That's a fun one. Albert Duraev and Chidi Njokuani. I'll never not want to see Chidi Njokuani fight. The dude is just so explosive, so unpredictable. I know his last fight was a disappointment for him. Yeah, TKO'd by Gregory Rodriguez. So we're going to see how he bounces back from that. That was back in September. But yeah, I followed that guy's career for a long time. He's just so much fun to watch. Daniel Pineda and Tucker Lutz. That's another fun fight. Trevin Giles. I feel like Trevin Giles has been fighting a lot. Am I wrong? Okay, no, he hasn't fought since September. Okay, why do I feel like he was just in there? Probably because your memory is shot, Bill. That's why. All right, fun fight night. 13 fights. San Antonio. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of fun fights on here. Usually after a big pay-per-view, you get like a little bit of a dud of a fight night, but they put together a solid one here. There's actually a lot of fights I'm looking forward to, so should be fun. All right. I said I was going to do a short episode, and then, here I am talking for an hour. That's the way it goes on a Tuesday night. But yeah, it's been a long week. Got back, actually flew back to Florida on Sunday, but I flew into Orlando, and then the wife met us out there, and then we went to our old stomping grounds at Magic Kingdom for the day yesterday, and then drove back late last night. Was feeling a little too tired to get an episode in, so here I am tonight on a Tuesday evening with you fine folks. Appreciate everybody who tunes in. Even the people who leave me nasty comments, I usually laugh at them. I'm one of those people, one of those rare people that actually, like, I enjoy getting roasted. Like, as long as it's fun and creative, and I don't feel threatened by it, it's fine. If Colby Covington told me that he lived close to me and he was gonna come kill me, I would find it hilarious. Mostly because I know that he would never do it. So anyway, if you guys do enjoy the program, which I guess you do, because you made it through 50 something minutes of just my voice, so you must like the show a little bit. And if that's the case, you can grab yourself some over the top Under the Influence merchandise through our friends at Team Reaper. Reaper1.co is the website. I'll put all the links in the show notes as always. You can use my promo code MMA Rocks 10. That's MMA ROCKS10. Save yourself 10% on your entire order, whether you are getting MMA on the Rocks merchandise or not. Mark wants to know if I have any new merch. How about adult toys? I was thinking about it. That could be an interesting market. A lot of these MMA podcasts are getting on OnlyFans now, so I might as well jump on the bandwagon with that and come out with like a vibrator that's shaped like a whiskey bottle. I don't know. We could have some fun ideas to toss around. Over the top, under the influence, vibrating underwear. I don't know. MMA on the Rocks, edible condoms. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. In any case, grab some merchandise. That's a great sales pitch now. Like, oh, maybe I'll make edible condoms. I might also buy my t-shirts. We also have tank tops and hoodies. if you were interested after that sales pitch. I'm obviously getting delirious because it's Tuesday night and it's past my bedtime. So I guess that means I should call it a show. So until next time, cheers, everybody. Goodbye.